back to the App Section, the show where we talk about pop culture, music, and fashion. I'm your host, Mia, and today we are talking about the Met Gala, sell out or survival. First, I just want to give a big shout out to my girls at Baby Fat for the fit check of the day. Super cute, loving it. Like, I'm going to be wearing this. You're going to have to tear me out of it. This last Monday was the infamous Met Gala, which has caused, as per usual, a lot of controversy. And so I thought we would, go through a few of them. First of all, of course, everyone has interesting feelings about Jeff Bezos being one of the primary donors/sponsors of the gala and essentially buying his way on as a co-chair to the committee. A lot of people are like, why are they there? Because the other co-chairs were like Nicole Kidman, Beyonce, people who have very much given and contributed to the world of the arts and fashion. And then there's Jeff Bezos, who runs a platform that sells 110% polyester clothing made by like orphans in a third country part of the world. Yeah, I was like, I didn't say that right. In a third world country. The controversy, or rather the pushback against him as a co-chair, started before the gala even began, with people placing little bottles of pee around the Met in like protest of him being a co-chair to comment on his like policy about bathroom breaks for Amazon workers. While I myself am like very unhappy that he is a co-chair and sponsor, I also have to kind of ask the question of like, why? The Met Gala is very infamous for being very selective for who can attend. Like, it's invite only. The guest list is curated by Anna Wintour herself. Nobody knows, how she does it. But generally, the consensus is, the fashion forward tastemakers in the public eye, of which, again, clap if you've ever taken fashion inspo from Jeff Bezos. But basically, I have a few theories on why they decided to do this. First and foremost, apparently, the Met Gala is the biggest fundraiser for the Costume Institute. And the Costume Institute is the only part of the Met that is like self-funded. Like, they're expected to bring in all of their own money. And so it's been their biggest fundraiser since like the gala began. It was the entire reason that the gala was created. But it's also caused some problems. So someone who works at the Costume Institute talked about how COVID was a very hard time for them because obviously they couldn't have the gala. And so it made them realize how bad almost their like financial planning was to a certain extent because they rely so heavily on the gala. But in recent years, the gala has become increasingly more controversial with factors such as like the wealth gap increasing and people just seeing it as this opulent display of wealth. A lot of people often compare it to like the Capitol in the Hunger Games. And while I think that comparison is unfair for a number of reasons, I do also understand where people are coming from. You're maybe struggling to make ends meet and someone is wearing a gown that's worth your salary at like this big extravagant ball and party. But again, it's not a party. It's not even like an award. It's a fundraiser. And I think people sometimes forget to undercut that with like the value of the arts and the value of fashion. And part of the reason I love the Met Gala so much as a event itself is because it's one of the only times, if not the only time of the year that we see fashion almost kind of get its due as the art form that it is. Because a lot of times, fashion is kind of a weird art form. You can't wear a painting or like do all this other stuff with a painting. Fashion has both the side of it that is very artistic, but also very utilitarian. And I feel like a lot of people get bogged down, in the very utilitarian, what can you wear from day to day, that we almost forget how beautiful and how extravagant it can be. And that is what the Met Gala has come and put to the forefront of like the public eye. It shows off the incredible talents of these designers that I don't know where they could wear any of these other pieces. Like the iconic, 2019 camp look from Lady Gaga where she had like 5 different looks. Name another event where Lady Gaga could have done that, because I don't know one. All this to say basically that, again, it is a fundraising event. However, the Costume Institute has apparently been, putting aside some of these funds as the event has gotten more and more money. I believe this year it raised like $11 million more than it did the previous year. And so they've been able to build a sizable nest egg that they might be able to live off as soon as like 2028 without the Met Gala. And so here's my theory. I think that they took the Bezos cash grab because they know that this event is coming to an end, like it's coming to a close. They've had struggles with it that it does still hold such a top level of like cultural significance in such a moment every single year, but it also again comes with this extreme amount of backlash, and they know that the end is nigh for this event. It's not appreciated and received in the same way that it was in previous years. And I think it's getting to a point too where I saw an article where they talked about this event kind of just dwarfs the entire Costume Institute. Like it just overtakes all imaging and everything else when it comes to the Costume Institute. And I think so because of that, to make sure that that nest egg can keep them sustained when they almost inevitably at this point decide to end the Met Gala, they're going to collect as much money as possible, and I guess they just don't really care who it comes from anymore because they're less worried about appeasing the public and more worried about how are we going to sustain ourselves after this event ends. And so I have mixed feelings on that, you know what I mean? And that's why I said, like, are we selling out or are we sustaining? The Costume Institute within the Met Gala sustains hundreds of years of like ancient items that need, you know, special attention and special care and special things to keep them in the quality that they need to be kept, which requires money, requires moolah. And again, the arts is something that's like just not valued as much as it should be. We all know people love to throw money at like STEM, and I think STEM is now STEAM. Like they did start to include the arts at some point, but across the country, you know, you go to any local high school or stuff, I almost guarantee you that they'll say that the arts programs are underfunded because it's not valued the way that math and science and all these more, you know, logical thinking paths are considered. And if we really want to talk about it, the whole underfunding of the Costume Institute, as it always does, goes back to misogyny, because at the end of the day, you know, fashion and craftsman work is considered womanly work until maybe more recent decades when like top creative directors and designers who are men have entered the field. But because it was considered that, it wasn't considered worthy of the amount of money that the other wings in the Met get. My other point that I kind of think that this ties into is, we've talked about it before and we'll talk about it again and again and again, is that like luxury is kind of broke, or it's losing its worth and its value that it once had. And a big part of that has to do with like experience as well. And I think adding in Jeff Bezos and his wife and taking the Amazon money cheapens the Met Gala a little bit, and the way that luxury fashion has been cheapened over the last few years. And I've had an article talking about how like over 50 million people who used to shop luxury don't shop luxury anymore because they're disappointed by the experience and the quality that they get back. They're like, the prices keep raising and raising and raising, but the quality and the experience keeps declining and declining and declining. And even for stores that were not considered totally like luxury, shopping used to be an experience. Malls were a very curated experience. Each store had its own individual feel. If you think about, you know, very early on Kate Spade or like very early on Victoria's Secret, going into those stores was supposed to curate an entire experience. And of course, that's not totally the fault of the brands. Like, why would you pump money into giving people an experience if most of the time they are shopping online at this point? For lower brands, I understand that, but I feel like for more luxury brand members, you still have to upkeep that experience, because that experience is partially what you're paying for. You know, you're not going to the store to be treated, she's just like every other bitch. Like, no, you're going to the luxury store because you're not like every other bitch, at least in your head. And when you're not getting that same amount of like, what you're putting in is not what's coming back to you. And these luxury companies, you know, again, the quality, some of them are using the same factories as the fast fashion girls. Like Shein and some of the luxury girls are being made in the same factories, and yet Shein costs $7 and some of these luxury brands cost $700. And when you're getting a same, you know, quality product, and you're almost being gaslit into thinking that, oh yeah, I need to buy this because of the brand name. But besides brand name, what are they really offering up? Because you're taking away the experience and you're taking away the quality. And so what does that leave except for brand name? And I think especially with Gen Z, we're becoming increasingly less enamored to a certain extent with brand names. I think there has been big push in Gen Z for like supporting more smaller or local businesses. Like, if we looked at the demographics for Etsy, I'm pretty sure Gen Z would be probably one of the highest buying percentages up there. Maybe millennials for like a live, laugh, love sign. But together we are keeping Etsy alive. We are keeping the small craftsmen alive, the small businesses alive. And also Gen Z is turning to more secondhand fashion as well. And I think luxury brands really need to look at how to pivot with Gen Z to make themselves attractive. Although I will say, again, we're in a day in time where I don't really know how much money Gen Z has to spend on luxury anyways. But I think that's another factor of it. You know, people used to save up for years and years and years to just get that like one luxury item to go and have that luxury experience. And I don't think people find it worth it anymore to like, if you have a large chunk of money to go and spend it on a bad quality bag. Despite the Bezos influence and backlash, I will still say, and don't come for me, I do think this was one of my favorite themes that they've done. And here is why. This theme, like, you really had to try not to show up in theme for this. In past years, I won't say I get it, but like the dress code could be something kind of not vague, but something you actually had to go research a little bit about. And a lot of these celebrities aren't going to bother to do the research. But like, this was like, you didn't need to research it. It was, you know, art is fashion. Nope. Switch it. Fashion is art. And it's like, if you couldn't interpret that, then just, I think anyone who didn't come in theme this year for this easy of a dress code should be immediately disqualified from coming back for at least another 5 years. But it was such a cool intersection, or it was such a cool moment for fashion for them to be able to, you know, the designers did not hold back. And I have to give a big shout out to Robert One, because I think he was designer of the night. Absolutely, hands down. Don't get me wrong. A lot of other designers had incredible looks. I will be thinking about that Iris Van Herpen dress, that blue bubbles, until I die. But for consistent across the board, everybody was like tens across the board, hundreds across the board. Robert One takes it. For my like favorite Robert One looks, it had to be probably Naomi Osaka. She did her big one, and I'm so happy to see her at the Met Gala, because I feel like, you know, sometimes you question a little bit like, why are they at the Met Gala? But like Naomi Osaka, if you know about her, you know about her. She is that girl when it comes to like athletics and fashion. Her tennis outfits, look them up. She used to have, or not used to have, but at some point when she was on a stellar winning every single match run, she had custom Labubus made to go with her tennis outfits. Like, she understands fashion as art. She absolutely deserved to be there. And it was fantastic to see her kind of have not one but two looks in a way, or like a big reveal. I love big reveal moments when they're done well. And this was done really, really well. I feel like there's always one at Met Gala, and I think this was probably my reveal for the night. Sorry to Alex Kanzani. But she took off her like white overcoat to reveal just the most stunning, like muscular inspired red dress underneath. And if you go and watch the video of like it being taken off of her, her face is so locked in. Like, she knew that she was about to be the moment. Absolutely. Like, you just see one person taking off one arm, the other person, and she's just mogging the fuck out of the camera. Absolutely. Then he had two designs that kind of involved these 3D, actually 3 designs that involved these kind of like 3D looking arms. Also all so cool. And one of them, I do believe even the hands were like moving. And that was another thing that was really cool about this Met Gala, was seeing the intersection between technology and art, because one of my other top favorite looks of the night was Janelle Monáe's, which literally represented the intersection between like modern day technology and art. And she had a lot of moving pieces to her outfit. And that's what was like, I really liked this theme, because the people who really leaned into it and decided to do their big one with this theme did their big one. Oh, I forgot. Robert One also dressed Beyonce for her second look. And it was just, it looked like a galaxy. She just looked engulfed by a galaxy. It was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. But the people who decided to do their big one did it. Like, and I haven't seen, I think, this level of Met Gala worth extravagance since, dare I say, camp. And I think it will continue to stick around as a theme as influential as the camp theme was. And maybe even the like everyone knows celestial body was the theme that cannot be beaten. But camp is maybe second place for me, and this might be third place. And I am so upset Zendaya was not in attendance, and I understand why. There's rumors that a few different people didn't show up because of Bezos' involvement, including Zendaya and Olivia Rodrigo. But Zendaya would have killed this theme. Oh my god. La Roche also had a stellar look. I guess he was trying to make up for the fact that his girl wasn't there. I mean, she also has like 4 back-to-back press tours, so it ultimately could have also been for that. But one can only imagine what she would have worn. The Met Gala is most likely on its way out within the next decade, probably half decade, but I will continue enjoying it, until it is gone, because it is just the Super Bowl and pinnacle of everything fashion. And if you're a fashion lover, like, there's just almost nothing better than it. And that is my take. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram, and I'll see you guys next time.